What's good, you guys? Today we got a three-peat on our hands, so just sit back, relax, and enjoy because this model is a little bit of a sleeper, and if you don't already know about it, by the end of the video, you're definitely going to want to grab a pair. As soon as these came in, this became one of my new favorite models, period, and you'll see why throughout the video. And obviously, you know how it goes as a sneakerhead. When something's fire, you got to catch them all. So today we're talking about not one, not two, but all three of the AFFXWRKS Asics collabs on the Gel Kinsei OG. So two of these shoes came in last week and I would have shot the video then, but I was like, nah, I gotta wait and hunt down that third pair to complete the trifecta because each one of these gives you wildly different aesthetics. So it's basically an eeny, meeny, miny, mo on which one to do first, but let's just start with the brownstone and kelp colorway. If I had to describe each one of these in just one word, this one would definitely be the flash pair because that combination of that bright yellow against that dark brown with the red accents definitely pops, and it's for sure the option for somebody who really wants to stand out with their kicks. On the toe box, you get this two-toned yellow panel. Portions of it are in this darker mustard yellow, and then the rest of it's in that brighter citron yellow. And the interesting thing about it is on the sides where that comes up to the eye stay, it has this like fibrous texture to it that's similar to like Tyvek if you've ever seen that up close, but that's just a nice little extra detail with this just being synthetic panels that kind of add a lot more character to the shoe. You'll see it on other panels as well. And then the mesh on the toe box has a nice premium feel, and at the base of the lace system you'll see that Asics logo on that black panel where you can kind of see that texturing a little bit more defined. On the lateral side, that yellow combo continues against that brown mesh, but my favorite part is this segmented area between the toe cap and the rest of the upper. This isn't unique to only this model, but I do enjoy the fact that that kind of lets your foot move more naturally. It comes in like this rubberized almost feeling material and then has these three little kind of nylon vents in the middle. Moving towards the heel corner, you see that Asics logo, and then you get the Gel Kinsei branding on the midsole, but on the heel itself you get this really nice touch of this bright red panel with the Gel Kinsei print, and then you see as this midsole comes up in white, you have the IGS branding, which stands for Impact Guidance System, and I'll get into the specifics of that later. The medial side basically mimics the lateral side, and then you have these little embroidered areas, 5 towards the back and 4 at the front, which you do find on both sides of the shoe. But getting into the midsole and outsole, that's one of my favorite parts about this shoe. On the forefoot, you have it in black with these 2 little blacked out gel pods, but getting into the midfoot and the heel, you see this Gel Kinsei branding and this IGS system and this translucent TPU, and all the gel pods on this model curve outward, and I'll explain why that is in a little bit. The forefoot of the outsole comes in primarily black, and then you have this white panel that goes up to the tip of the toe box, and then you have these yellow dots. Then on the heel you see red and yellow, and then you get the Ahar Plus branding, which is one of Asics' technologies. And as you can see, that midfoot shank is actually a continuous panel that encapsulates the whole heel and is actually where the gel pods rest, and in the center of that there is exposed foam in that black area. At the base of the lacing system you get this red hit at the very bottom loop, and then the rest of the lace loop holes are actually metal. You have that red one there in the middle on the lateral side, and this is a pull tab lacing system, so you get this nice red tip on that. In addition to that, you also have these elasticated belts that come across, and on the top it says New You, which is just a reference to AFFXWRKS tagline, New Utility, and I'll explain that also later on. The tongue comes in a slightly more open mesh, and then you have this really crazy looking Asics badge on the top in all red with embroidered edges. You get this elevated material on the sock liner in the back of the tongue, and that really feels good on foot. It's very plush. And then the insoles, you get the co-branding with Affix on one and then Asics on the other. So there's a lot to this model and also to its collaborators, so I just want to break this up a little bit by first telling you a little bit of history about Affix itself. The brand was started in 2018 with the tagline of New Utility. That's why you see that New You on those elastic straps on the tongue, and that was basically the brand's ethos of trying to mix workwear and streetwear together in a new and innovative way. The brand was founded by 4 members. From left to right, you have Stefan Mann, who is a creative consultant in the design world. Then you have Taro Ray, who is also a fashion designer and a co-graduate of the same design school as Kiko Kostadanov. And then you have OG Michael Kopelman, who was actually brought in by Sean Stussy on that brand back in the day and introduced it in the UK. He's also the founder of the brand Gimme 5, which he actually started back around that same time, and he has very close-knit relationships with designers in Japan such as Nigo and Hiroshi Fujiwara of Good Enough and Fragment. And then rounding it off is Kiko Kostadanov, who I'm sure most of you already know for his work with Asics and also his namesake brand. And just to keep it brief on the sneaker tip, they have done other collaborations such as the Nova Blast with Asics, the Gel Noosa Tri 12, and they even worked with a brand called Loa on these kind of hiking boots, and of course the Gel Kinsei OG that we're talking about. I'm gonna wrap it up there. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of backstory, but here's a stockist list of everywhere globally that you can find AFFXWRKS clothes if you want to check them out. They do have some really interesting pieces. Now back to the shoes, we got pair number 2. Now this colorway comes in a totally New York Knicks vibe, and I love that because I've always loved that color combination. Starting at the toe box, the overlay panels this time are in this matted out, almost like a nubuck feel, and you still get that texturing around the outer portions. Then the netting on the toe box is blue with that orange Asics A. The lateral side sports that same two-tone aesthetic. This time it's just way more matted out, and it's against that blue mesh. And then that segmentation panel, these dots here at the bottom, you actually get a darker shade of blue there, and then I really like those satin hits on the blue areas, and then that whole panel this time comes in a white color that I really think plays well against the midsole. Towards the heel corner, you get that same Asics and Gel Kinsei branding visibly, and then on the heel this time in orange you have that hit again, and then the IGS. The medial side mimics the lateral again, and on this one with that kind of graphite gray on the overlays, you can really see that texturing a lot better. The lacing system follows the same color patterning from before. This time you just get all those little individual hits in that Knicks orange, and then you have that badge again at the top of the tongue. The back of the tongue, sock liner, and insole this time all come in that blue, and then you have that orange hit of Asics on the insole. On this one you get all the gel pods from the forefoot to the heel in this like translucent ocean blue that I really think goes well. And this time from the underside of that translucent IGS panel you can see the blue coming through, and you have that curved design to the gel pods again that flare out in every direction, especially towards the back. The midfoot of the outsole this time comes in black and white with these areas between the traction pads in white instead of just being blacked out, and then that white strip again that comes up to the tip of the toe box. On the heel you have that Knicks orange, and then that exposed foam area in the center there in white. Now it's time for pair number 3, and this one's actually a varied version that uses Gore-Tex material. I'll show where that comes into play as I go around the shoe, but this one is definitely an outlier with a cool color combination in this Desert Camp and Grand Shark colorway. The toe box on this continues that two-tone aesthetic with that darker Grand Shark blue in the center, accented by that lighter blue on both of the outside areas. Then the mesh on top comes in that Desert Camp tan this time, and you have a forest green Asics A. This model is actually a little bit more used condition than my other two, so forgive any imperfections in the toe box area. That lateral side continues the two-tone blue against the tan mesh, and then at the top of the eye stay you can see the Gore-Tex branding. Then the segmented area on the midfoot this time comes in 2 shades of gold in that satin material. Towards the heel counter you get the branding again, and you start to see those hits of green, and then working to the back of the heel you have that forest green on the Gel Kinsei and the IGS logo. And then the medial side follows suit of the last 2 pairs with that same layout. On the lacing system you get more hits of that forest green by the bottom of the laces, the side lace loophole, and then that new U branding, and also of course the signature patch that you find on the top of the tongue. Now you might be thinking, what makes these a Gore-Tex version, because everything seems exactly the same as before. On the sock liner and the back of the tongue you have this gold texture, but then on the inside of the shoe you can see that it's actually completely lined with this other material that has the Gore-Tex branding around it. So basically the waterproofing aesthetic of this is all going to come from that inside, so they didn't even have to change the outside materials, they just added that to the inner. And this one's a little worn out, but you do get the Affix branding this time on that forest green insole, and then it's in blue text. The gel pods you find on this version at the forefoot and the heel come in this like cloudy, almost glue color, which is a little bit strange, but honestly for the overall colorway it plays into it perfectly. Then on the outsole, the heel sports that forest green, and the IGS system again is in a chalkier kind of translucent material. The forefoot hitting that again with black and white, and having that panel that goes up to the toe tip. Now that you've seen all 3 models, let's get into sizing, and that is just another one of the reasons why I really like this shoe. It comes with what they call a biomorphic fit. I think in my last video I might have said biometric by mistake, but it was just a design tooling from Asics meant to make it morph around your foot in a really one-to-one kind of way, and that's exactly how this feels. It's really plush at the forefoot. The second that I put these on, I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want. And then at the heel, that IGS system rubber, you can see it comes up pretty high, so when your foot is in here you're actually seated below that. But this thing, it might seem a little intimidating, but it actually cradles your foot and you can feel it on the inside. It's a little firm, but not in a bad way. It just basically holds you in place exactly how you want to be. And with the lacing system and the plush inside materials, it really gives a nice snug fit, but it still allows for total mobility and doesn't restrict the foot in any way. And with all that being said, you're definitely going to have to go true to size with these. There is no half sizing down. Just keep in mind that is not how the shoe was designed. It was meant to be your exact fit. And I've been wearing these around a lot, and I swear every time I wear them, the more I like them. If you end up getting a pair of these, you're definitely going to be satisfied. Now, this model, being the OG, was actually brought back in 2019, and there was two colorways. There was this red option and the blue option against the chrome. This has since been discontinued, but you can find these hanging around. It's a little bit here and there, but you can get them for pretty decent prices. The ones that I've been seeing the most is size 9 through 11, so if you fit that category, you could definitely find a pair of these relatively easily. Now, the next really big reason why I love this shoe comes with the actual design history and inspiration. The designer of this shoe was Hasanori Fujita, and he said that the design aesthetic actually came from samurai armor, which is insanely dope. He said that he actually wanted to mimic the way that it was able to protect your body and also let you move freely at the same time. And like I kind of alluded to earlier, one of the big reflections of that inspiration comes in the gel pods and how they're actually all curved and kind of flick out. Fujita himself said that was actually directly inspired by the samurai katana sword. I mean, looking at these two images, you can see exactly what he was going for, and if that doesn't build the hype up of the shoe for you a little bit, I mean, I don't know what does. The last element, aside from the fit and the gel pods, that I think speaks to that samurai armor language is that segmented area. It's not exclusive to this shoe. You can also find it on the more modern Kayano Legacy, the Kayano 14, and the new Kayano 12.1. But knowing the design backstory and then looking at the aesthetics of the shoe, you can really see that armor vibe coming through. Now, these were originally released in 2006 and were considered revolutionary and actually one of the most technical shoes to come out at that time. And I think all this stuff really holds up because they use a lot of this today, and this was the first time they implemented the IGS system, which they've continued to use and place elements of on all different models leading up to current day. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, what the hell is the IGS system? And that's the impact guidance system, which is made up of 4 components. You have an external heel counter that minimizes ankle movement. Then they have their guidance line technology to increase stability. And then Duomax foam that I've spoken about before, which prevents overpronation on the inside of the foot. And then lastly, it contains the Trust Stick guidance system, which they actually debuted on this model. And that's for weight reduction, and it also aids for smoother landings. You can find that technology on something as current as the Gel Kayano 20. And another thing that just proves that this tech holds up is this is actually a true retro. These came out around 2019, and this is a one-to-one of how this came out in 2006. And similar to the progression of the Kayano, these did have new iterations. You had the Kinsei 2, the Kinsei 3, and both of those do sport that asymmetrical lacing system that you find on the Gel Nimbus 10.1 today. Both of those models are fire, and I wish that they would actually pull those out of the vault. Then there's the Gel Kinsei 4, which you can find some of these used floating around. That pair is actually dope, and I'd like to get my hands on it. Then you have the Kinsei 5, the Kinsei 6, and then moving to the next, they kind of stopped numbering it and just called it the Kinsei Blast. And then the most recent pair is the Kinsei Max. Oh, and I almost forgot, last but not least is the packaging. It comes in OG boxes, which I am loving that retro vibe, bro. Yes. But that's gonna wrap it up on this collection, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed getting them. But I'll catch you guys on the next one. If you want to throw a comment or a like or even subscribe, I'm trying to make more videos like this, and I'm trying to find obscure stuff that nobody else is talking about. So if you like stuff like this, consider subscribing, because I'm going to keep these videos coming. But anyways, I'll catch you guys on the next one, and remember, life's short, so buy the shoes.